Look what you did, you little jerk!
What's going on, Jerk Faces? We're back again for another episode of the Circle of Jerks podcast, and we are having our afternoon at the movies. And it's surprisingly, it's not Eric with us. Who's normally our resident movie reviewer.
Right.
We brought my dad back for another, for another review, and obviously not only because these are good movies and he kind of shows them, but he kind of knows about like some of the culture and the information behind the movies because he. Yeah. Did you see any of these in the movie theater, Dad?
Yeah.
You actually saw the
Last movie I saw in the theater.
So, so we decided we chose for our viewing today, Bullitt and The French Connection, two of the noted as two of the greatest car chase films of all time.
Yeah.
Which is why my dad was interested in talking about these movies.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, I got a day pass from prison for smuggling drugs to come and be on TV.
All right.
For the record, I'm only involved in these movies because there's cars, not the drug chase.
We've had a lot. This is probably another movie with drugs involved because we did Easy Rider. Now we have French Connection.
I know they can run hand in hand, kind of.
Yeah.
Frequent.
We definitely watched a lot of these kind of the ones that we've reviewed. Outside maybe a couple. Really this like kind of new Hollywood style of movies because this is not these films were not like Easy Rider, Bullitt, French Connection. They were all on location. It wasn't in a studio, which for the era, especially the late '60s, early '70s, that was new to Hollywood.
I didn't know that. I wanted to know.
Well, it's true.
I'll just take your word for it, son.
I want to go take a nap. We learned something new.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I broke everyone's brain on that one. But yeah, this is what was considered New Hollywood, where it wasn't just trapped inside of a studio or just like in a on a studio lot, but especially in the Bullitt and the French Connection, they were all filmed on location. And in the case of the French Connection, it was very low budget. But we'll get into that here shortly. Before we start diving into the movies, why don't we have Andy share the synopsis with us? Why don't we start with Bullitt because that came first. We'll go in
chronological order.
Alphabetical, too.
That too.
What is it? Senator Walter Chalmers is aiming to take down mob boss Pete Ross with the help of the testimony from the criminal's hothead brother Johnny, who is in protective custody in San Francisco under the watch of Police Lieutenant Frank Bullitt. When a pair of mob hitmen enter the scene, Bullitt follows their trail through a maze of complications and double crosses. The thriller includes one of the most famous car chase ever filmed.
Yeah. Well, according to my dad, it'd be like, wait, this is a cop movie?
Yeah. Right, yeah, because Bruce only sees things through the eyes of cars, so...
I do. 10-minute movie with an hour and something of, this is other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, if that chase scene hadn't been in Bullitt, would we be talking about it? It would have just been another cop movie that faded into obscurity, right?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I would highly agree with that.
Yeah.
It probably would have been a very failed, because Steve McQueen didn't have a lot. I can't think of a bad film he's been in. But if this didn't have the chase scene, I think it would lose a lot of its punch that it had. Because in the chase scene that occurs in here, everything kind of occurs very naturally in the progression of the story, and it's not just like, hey, let's just throw a chase scene in here for the hell of it. It all the story plays out very organically, very naturally, and I was sharing in our chat like this past week, and when I was rewatching it, it's like the best part about like the chase scene is like there's not a whole bunch of dumb dialogue with it. They let the chase play out, and it's already tense enough. Like we don't need a whole bunch of dialogue or something like to I don't know to break it up or make it more tense. It already is tense.
Heck, there's no dialogue in the chase scene, I think, right?
That's what I'm
No.
saying. That's what makes it good.
At all, yeah.
Right. I mean, because with a lot of modern movies, when they do chase scenes, it's usually, it's not usually that quiet, and there's usually, someone else in the car with them to kind of act as the surrogate for the audience to kind of like, kind of voice, what the audience would be reacting to. It's like, oh my god, oh watch out for that truck, and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, well, I mean, we, Andy, like, I always make him watch a lot of what he titles schlock, which is MST3K movies essentially, and we were watching one I forced him to watch was Samurai Cop. And it's that movie starts off with a god awful chase scene, and like the main character is finally saying, shoot him, shoot him. It's like, which you would think like if this is a bad movie, you'd have the two bad guys in the Dodge Charger saying like, hey, shoot him, it's like get him.
Instead, this guy silently, are we jumping ahead? Rolls down the window and sticks the barrel shotgun out and fires. Not a word, not emotionless. It's so, yeah.
Well, the thing I like about it, since we'll get to the chase, we'll talk about that first because honestly that's what everyone remembers about this movie. And during the course of his investigation, Frank Bullitt is he's trying to figure out like there's a lot of things that went wrong in this case. And he, obviously you have the senator who's trying to blame him, put all the blame on him, and there's just a lot of nothing's adding up. And over the course of his investigation, the the hitmen that are hired from this mob boss, they're following Bullitt around town, trying to figure out what he's up to, what he knows. And initially, they're following Bullitt. He kind of gets gets ahead of them. He knows he's being followed, and he kind of turns things around. And all of a sudden, they're trying to like, oh wait, we lost him. They're trying to find him. And all of a sudden, you just see that great shot in the rearview mirror. It's like you just see him just come over the hill. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, and like I said, but nothing said, and it's great because you just see like the look of oh shit, he's behind us, and you see it like when he's like he buckles his belt. And it's like oh here we go, it's about to go down, and that's when like they just guns it, and that's where the chase starts from there.
Yeah, I think this is also really unique in terms of car chases. It's very unique because it's not very. I mean, storytelling by its nature is linear, but I think with it, like I think it was very smart of them to have the setting of the movie in San Francisco, so that they could take advantage of the unique geography of the city with like the hills and things like that. Because most other chases, it would just be kind of like on flat, streets, and like you might have like, a car like whip out, for like a quick second, and then, recompose itself. But the Bullitt has, they do like a lot of great shots where like, the car takes a hill like a little too hard or aggressively, and kind of catches some air, and I think. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why this chase scene is so memorable.
it made for some great cinematography with the geography of the land and the cars stretching out and then crashing down hard. And like Robert said, no dialogue, so you hear every crunch on the bump stops. And as I don't know if you guys noticed it, but if you just sit back and you watch the chase scene, it's really enjoyable. If you start dissecting it, you go, well, that car just lost 5 hubcaps because they shot multiple or single scenes from multiple angles and then they stitched it back together. So it's like, how fast is that Volkswagen that they can pass it 4 times? They showed the same jump from different camera angles and stitched back together.
Right.
And it was shot out of sequence, so hubcaps would disappear and reappear on
And would appear and reappear, disappear, reappear,
But at that point, you're not trying to be I'm certainly not trying to be a car snob. You kind of notice it, you go, oh, screw up, but just sit back and enjoy the ride. The chase is so good. And like you said, no dialogue, just tenses. Now, what I never noticed, the Mustang, and to their credit, it wasn't like Fast and Furious with 10,000 speed transmissions. And yeah, I'm racing, but I need to go faster, so I'm going to shift 6
Right. Yeah, that's one of the weirdest things in modern, I guess, car movies where they're driving and then like every time it cuts to them inside the car, they're always shifting. I was like, how many gears does this car have?
Yeah. Even American Graffiti felt trapped to that because when they were racing Falfa and Milner, the light turns, they're racing and the light changes and Falfa goes down a gear and punches it. Wait, you were already racing on what? Were you baby racing or something? But what I didn't realize, and I never really picked up before, the soundtrack of the Mustang is not the Mustang. It's a Ford GT40 run at full tilt. And if you listen really close, you'll hear them double shift because the GT40 had a non-synchro transmission.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. And so for the non-auto people, double clutch is when you don't have synchros in your transmission, so you have to rev match the gearbox in between gears. So pulling it from like first to second, you stop at neutral, let the clutch out, blip the gas, clutch in, it speeds everything up, pull it down into gear. And if you listen real closely to the Mustang, you can hear it. I had never picked up on that before, but the driving was real, the shifting was real, and the soundtrack was synchronized to what was going on pretty good. It's a very believable chase scene.
Well, that makes sense. Well, because this movie, I think, won the Academy Award for editing, so that makes sense. Like, obviously, because everything seemed to come together. Even like, obviously with the, the continuity errors that on like the chase scene. But even then, like, it's not really something that takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, and even that with like the them like getting that, because I never knew that about the movie.
Listen to it. There's only 10 minutes of movie that's important. Go back and watch that.
So yeah, that was because there was a lot about that scene was very interesting because if I remember correctly, Steve McQueen, he raced occasionally, didn't he? Like,
yeah, that's what I heard too.
And actually, let me look at my notes real quick too, because something else I learned. So it was produced by Philip. I'm holding it up so you can see it. Read along with me if you will, class.
He did his homework.
Philip D'Antoni, who began his career with Sophia Loren, Elizabeth Taylor, and Melanie Marconi. But he produced Bullitt, but he was also Peter Yates also spent 2 years as the racing manager for Sterling Moss and Peter Collins.
No kidding.
Directed the movie. So that probably helped him figure out the racing aspect a little bit better than your average director, which is.
Well, I think now that you're mentioning that too, because part of this movie was also it was McQueen's production company that was one of the production companies that was involved. McQueen specifically chose Yates, probably because the information I had was based off of his movie Robbery, which had an extended car chase, but it's probably also because of that too. Knowing his background in that, and knowing it's like we could make something really good here, which they did.
I'm guessing they didn't expect it to be as iconic as it became.
Well, just like I said, this is something completely new.
Instead, it became a great part of a good movie.
Yeah.
And McQueen did do a lot of his own driving.
Yeah.
But they did have some stunt drivers in there.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Carry on, and I'll just interject wherever I feel appropriate.
Who was the... Now, the other thing, too, well, obviously, like, Ford Motor Company lent the production to the fastback Mustangs, and what ended up being the Dodge Charger was actually supposed to be a Ford Galaxy, and they both Ford Motor Company wanted to. This is kind of like one of the first like moments of like product placement, you could say, like where they're Ford is lending their cars to this production. The Galaxy was too heavy for what they were wanting to do, which is why they ended up going with the Dodge Charger. But from what I understand, the Mustang was actually was heavily modified by, what was it, Max Balchowski, who was a veteran race car driver. And I'm pretty sure my dad knows much more about much more about that.
Yeah, and this is car guys can't just watch a movie and enjoy it. we just, it's not the way our brain works. Well, it's like, really? That Mustang's keeping up with that Charger? And so what they wound up doing to the Mustangs, and 2 or 3, depending on the source, typically normal any movie with a car in it, they'll typically have 2.
Right.
Better sources I read were leaning towards 3, especially on the Charger, and we can get to that later. But the Mustang was just a dog. And so they wound up doing head, carburation, exhaust, and timing, I believe. And who was driving the Charger? Still had to keep backing off to keep from running away from them. So, the Chargers, there were 3 of them. And it was at least one was an RT440. And the Mustangs had the 390s in them. And you figure out power to weight ratios. It should seem more balanced than it was, but according to everyone on the set, the Charger just kept running away from the Mustang, which is funny because after the movie, the Mustang, Ford Motor Company, is the one that really capitalized on that Bullitt Mustang.
Oh, I mean, they're still capitalizing on that.
Contributes. And Dodge never said, hey, should we build a black Charger? Well, the Mustang ran away from us. Yeah, but that was all Hollywood, folks.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I read, and it still bothers people to this day. But I'm not a huge Mopar guy. I don't know if you knew that, Robert.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not a Mopar guy either. Even right out of the factory, they were built wrong.
A scathing review. Yeah, if I got a minute, I can share with you guys.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so our guys recently went to Brands Hatch and tried to recreate the chase scene to see, is the Charger really that much faster than a Mustang? Well, they used a Peugeot 306 Estate, which is their term for station wagon, and it kept up with the cars no problem. So it shows you how cars have changed over the years.
Yeah.
But this author, and I'm sorry I didn't get his name. Ben Barry. I did get his name. Writing about the Charger. If a Hearst manufacturer branched out into very fast, high-performance coupes, it would probably build something like the Charger.
Oh, jeez. Shots fired.
Damn.
Shots fired.
Squish yourself into the flat, slippery vinyl seats. Turn the ignition key and the V8 motor chugs into life, noticeably more quiet than the Mustang. It idles broodingly in a manner that perfectly complements the blank death stare of the shrouded headlights and the tension we feel in the film. The insistent chug says, I'm going nowhere, buddy. You can run all you like, but I'll be in your rearview mirror. When you prod the Dodge's throttle, shockwaves of power rock the car's body as if the V8 were trying to escape its confine. 7.2 liters under your right foot is a lot even for these days. Shift the torque flight auto box to drive, and there's a gargle and a roar as fuel washes through the four-barrel carburetor. That chug, now a thunderous hammering. The long bonnet rises like a powerboat as the Charger shifts through its 3 gears. The Charger rolls and pitches so alarmingly, you instinctively roll up the windows for fear you'll fall out. At least the Charger's brakes haul you promptly, while its length allows an extra pair of seats. Oh God, there was another one. The production crew had to beef up the suspension. Throw a production car down San Francisco Street and the bouncing wouldn't stop until you hit Hawaii. Well, it's like, don't sugarcoat it. Don't hold back. Tell us.
Yeah.
But I read that, I was reading that at work, off work hours. And I just started cracking up. I go, wow, and I write scathing reviews about cars. This guy is brutal.
That's pretty brutal.
The fact is, yeah, they did suspension to both cars. More suspension work to the Charger, more engine work to the Mustang. Both of the action cars had full roll cages in them. 2 of the Chargers were stick shifts, and 1 was an automatic. I might have just said that backwards. But 2 were, there were sticks and automatics used in the Chargers. So they use a lot of cars in making a movie. And they said both cars were thoroughly used up at the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine.
On the sell for a pretty penny. So, yeah, that was correct. That the Mustang with the 390 was slower than the Charger with the 440, and they did engine work. And you see why Robert had to move out, Andrew, because he asked a simple question, and I'm talking 10 minutes later, so just answer the damn question, yes or no? No, I have a story to tell you.
I know, right? The lead up is very important. I get it. The lead up is very important. I get, I know a lot of people like that, where you ask them a simple question, it's like either yes or no, or it's just like, or it's very, it's like one sentence, but they have to like ramp themselves up, it's like, so you can get like the full context. I totally get it.
Don't ask me what time. I'm not going to tell you how the watch was built. We'll go back to the beginning of time itself.
They write these 2 molecules came in like bam, and
but yeah, but despite all that, it's the chase scene doesn't take you out. It doesn't take you out of the movie. It's like I said, it's so good. It's honestly it's Hollywood at its finest, if you ask me. But the movie itself, like I said, I really love the. I'm a big sucker for like cop movies. I kind of like them. I like uh, investigations and double cross and kind of stuff like that. And like I said, I'm a sucker for Steve McQueen. I think he's one of the greatest actors that ever was. He's done like stuff like The Great Escape and Nevada Smith and a lot of these great movies that he was in. Magnificent Seven. Though that had no cars in it.
I think Bud Eakins was in The Great Escape too.
Right, that was his.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was his body double for
Yeah.
for the Chase. Yeah, yeah. Another great movie that had has a motorcycle in it, so I'm pretty sure that excites you.
I did. I watched it. I've seen that.
Right? What was it like? So that's like it was like there's like a like a 5-minute scene. That was like the entire movie for
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like the movie itself was like pretty exciting. Obviously you have a lot of great actors in here. Robert Duvall very early on in his career. Robert Vaughn, who obviously was in Magnificent Seven, along with Steve McQueen. Robert Vaughn's character, God, what a dick! Senator Chalmers.
Yeah.
Just the guy was like is a complete ignoramus and is constantly trying to go after Bullitt. Putting all the blame on him.
So at least he did his that actor did his research and he perfectly portrayed a politician.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Utterly incompetent. Right?
From Uncle 2?
What's that?
Is he the man from Uncle 2?
That's possible. I'm not huge on Robert Vaughn's career. But I think
he was, because I remember the first time I watched that.
You're right. Yeah, he was in the series The Man from U.N.C.L.E. You're right.
Yeah, I'm not into movies, cinematography like you guys are. So one guy did The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and when he shows up, it's like, what's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. doing here? Oh, they called in the heavy hitters to solve this.
Yeah. But no, he portrayed that senator in a great light.
Yeah.
But just the like I said, it's just this very simple like story, like where it's just kind of like what you're seeing is not actually like what has actually happened. There's a lot of there's a couple of twists in the story, and people are being trying to being manipulated. There's a lot of like double cross stuff like that, and those to me those are like great movies.
Well, and Bullitt isn't immune from that. When his suspect or witness dies, rather than tell everyone, he goes, "We got to take him to the morgue as a John Doe, so the investigation stays alive."
That's right.
Right.
And our main character is trying to double cross and hide information because he wants to catch the bad guys just as badly as anyone else.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is like, no, if this guy dies, everything's over, and I want to catch these guys because not only he didn't really care about the witness, but like one of his partners is shot, so he's like, I want to get these guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot this, but Norman Fell was in this movie. A younger, yeah. If those of you who don't remember, he played Mr. Furley in Three's Company.
That's right.
I know who Norman Fell is. I didn't remember him in Bullitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played Captain Baker. He was kind of like the only ally that Steve McQueen's character had on the force.
He was that was the other captain. That was the.
Are you sure?
Yes. That was.
Oh right, that was yes, Simon Oakland.
Yeah, Captain Baker was more like on the side of Senator Chalmers, so they were both kind of dicks in this movie.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they were going after Bullitt.
Which car did Norman Fell drive?
Well, it was. I'm trying to think of what the squad car that he ended up taking, that like Bullitt ended up having to have his girlfriend drive him to one of the scenes because his car got destroyed.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. But overall, like they said, the movie was really great. I mean, they tried to like put in a little bit of like a love story and like kind of the thing with him and his girlfriend. I didn't really care about that so much.
Yeah. Bruce is like totally uninterested. Bruce, of course, is totally uninterested. Like, what car did his girlfriend drive?
Out of it.
Did she drive a Carmen Gia or something like that? Wasn't that her car? She had a convertible car.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Maybe, yeah. She realized her life was gonna, this is what you're always gonna be, or something. She had some line at the end like, "Is this what dating a cop is like?"
Well, yeah, because she saw like the dead body, and it's like you live in a sewer. And,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was wondering if like, is that gonna affect like our relationship? Because like you're dead to everything.
That's right. Because it was a little heavy, philosophical, and nothing wrong with living in the sewer, but she realized it, and
Yeah. I mean, Oscar the Grouch has done great in the sewer.
I know, right?
There was another person in there besides the Mustang. There were people in that movie, weren't there?
Yeah. Some of them were dead.
Yeah, some of them died.
So a couple of funny segues on that Mustang. Yeah, David Coons on ABC7 drives a tribute Mustang to the Bullitt car.
Okay.
Itself. And there's actually a website that he has helped create, and they credit him with a lot of the information.
Oh, wow.
And so his was more accurate than a lot of it. And so the hero car wound up selling recently, the Mustang. How much did it sell for? $3.7 million in 2020.
Ooh.
So, and this is going to be my Vega tie-in, okay? Because you think I'm crazy having Vegas. The car after the movie was in the probably Sony lot, and somebody goes, "What's that? You want it?" He was a high-ranking executive, so they gave him a Mustang. He was a young family man. He had the car for a little bit, and his wife goes, "We're having a family. You should sell that Mustang and buy a family car." He sells the Mustang. Do you know what he replaced it with? A Vega station wagon.
Oh, that's great.
The car wound up in New Jersey in some guy's garage until just a couple of years ago they unveiled it and dug it out. And the other one that was found in Mexico was the more beat up of the two cars, but it also has been brought back stateside, fully immigrated with papers, and Trump, while he was running the White House, let it come in, I guess. Anyhow, I don't know what's happened to that car lately.
Yeah, like it's
but Vega tie-in.
Yeah. Hey. But yeah, that car, is just become so iconic. It just like Ford has gotten so much play off of this, even like 50 years later.
I like the Mustang with the 390 and Highland green.
Yeah, it's a cool looking car.
It's it left its it was still a pony car, but it was more of a muscular car. Like I like the fastback 65 to 66, Shelby fastbacks. But by 69, it was becoming 68, 69. It was really growing into a nice car. Actually, when I worked at Braun, I had a buddy who owned a very similar Mustang.
Yeah, like, and that's probably like my favorite. I'm not a huge Mustang guy, but that'd probably be like more of a. That's kind of like the type of Mustang that I like, is that era.
Yeah.
Late 60s, early 70s. As long as it's not the Mustang 2, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, according to the notes from Hickman, they had 3 Mustangs and 3 Chargers.
Yeah.
Although the Chargers, coming up with black Chargers was hard to do. So 2 of them were painted black for the movie, and thanks to high def and freeze frame, people are saying in some of the accident scenes when there's an accident, you can see blue paint under the black, and the other one was yellow originally, I believe.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I'm not the only person who digests these movies just for cars.
Clearly not. Clearly not.
Sick like us that go,
Yeah,
oh,
it's a sickness. It's a sickness.
Originally. And they say, you hear them shifting it. In some places you see the shift lever, yet clearly the guy drops it in the drive. So I believe the car that was mainly the hero car, if you will, in the movie was an automatic, but the ones used in some of the chase scenes were manuals, which, well, the Mustang was a manual too. So just one of the little disparities that they had in there. The other thing in the Mustang, if you notice the rearview mirror, if it was up, Steve McQueen was driving. If it was down, one of the stunt drivers was driving.
Yeah, that's right. I had heard that.
And the famous scene where McQueen overcooks a corner, throws it into reverse, lights them up, and that was accident. But they thought it looked so cool, they left it in. But that was also the scene that apparently led to the stunt drivers doing more driving. They said, yeah, you overcooked it a little. He's a stunt driver. He can handle this better.
Oh, really? See, that I didn't hear.
Now, that's according to the internet. And
okay. So take it with a grain of salt.
I just learned this internet isn't always accurate. Particularly true during our next feature, which I don't want to leak into yet. But so take that worth. My research on the internet said that. And I had heard that way before the internet, because this came out in what, 60, 70? That was, I was in my 20s already, and there was no internet yet. So that's been around for a while. Doesn't mean it's true, but
you're right.
There you have it.
Any other like scenes or like moments from the movie that like you guys found interesting?
I actually I really like the foot chase there at the end in the airport.
Oh yeah, a lot of these great like cop movies seem to end up in the airport, like like Heat.
Yeah.
This one, The Killing. But yeah, this was another one that ended up at the airport, which is it. I feel like Heat took a lot of inspiration off of Bullitt because of that.
Oh yeah, especially when they're like running all around on the runways and in between the planes and things like that. Yeah. I definitely see where Michael Mann got his inspiration from. But I also appreciate it because it wasn't like this heavy like soundtrack in the background to kind of.
It's great.
It's so nice because like it puts you in that scene. It puts you in either of the characters running away because you just hear the ambient noise of like the engines of the plane like whirring up or the passing of a plane overhead, and it really just puts you in that scene, and you kind of get lost in it. So that was really nice.
That's the one thing I like about this movie. It's very minimalist, where it's like it doesn't like put too much in the way. It allows you to it allows the movie to breathe, and like it's already tense as it is. We don't need a bunch of dialogue or soundtrack messing up the movie.
Yeah, that's how I felt. It's a very enjoyable movie, and it's probably best enjoyed casually as opposed to going back and dissecting it and saying, "Oh, we passed the same Volkswagen too many times," and chronological. You know, this is how people have actually remapped the chase scene and said it can't actually physically be done in the amount of time they showed. Okay, don't take from the movie. You know, not everything you see in movies can really happen. And if you jump your car like that, you're going to junk your car, not keep driving it like Bullitt did. So the movie in its own plays very well. It's very enjoyable. God, I love it. I catch new stuff all the time. I see it. I don't know if I should use the term catch new stuff. I see new things every time I see it. And enjoy the, that chase scene just never gets old. And
Nope.
and like Robert mentioned, when they buckle up their lap belts, it's so deliberate. The bad guys. Oh, there is a let's see, is that a tie-in on this movie? Hang on a second. Not because I'm going to answer the phone. I do have something really interesting to tell you.
Okay.
Oh. Bill Hickman, the Charger, that's the home phone. Sorry, it should go to answer. Bill Hickman, who was the Charger driver in Bullitt, actually drove the car in the movie. Okay, this is going to tie into the next movie. Plays the policeman who got into a fight with Gene Hackman in The French Connection.
That's right. Okay, I thought so. I knew he looked familiar.
And he's the stunt driver in Flim Flam Man. Second tie-in. The other hitman was played by Paul Genge, who played a character who had ridden a Dodge off the road to his death in an episode of Perry Mason 2 years later. That guy should not buy a Dodge for a daily driver.
Yeah.
And that was stuff unrelated to the movie, but it's funny. You can go down that rabbit hole for hours on end.
Oh, really?
Well for it, apparently. No, just Mike, if you're listening, I didn't do that. But it's a very enjoyable movie. But it is kind of fun when you learn these things. Go, I never saw that before. Never thought about that. But still, that chase scene, sitting on the couch, feels just like a Charger bench seat. And you just, grab onto the seat because it's going to be a bumpy ride, folks.
Why don't we get into our second film, The French Connection?
All right, French Connection. I couldn't find a very long synopsis, but it's very succinct. This one comes from IMDb. A pair of New York City cops in the Narcotics Bureau stumble onto a drug smuggling job with a French connection. Yeah?
Yeah, I know that. There it is. That's the title.
There it is.
This movie is wow. This movie always just wows me with how good it is, how great it is, and this was never. They never thought that this was going to be the hit that it was. I mean, they literally had no budget. It was $1.8 million for their budget, which is really not that much, and it ended up making like some, well over $50 million. And it's just, I would say this is probably even like a better cop movie than, say, Bullitt is. And to me, the chase scene that is in this movie is also, I like it over Bullitt just because this movie was done without the consent of New York City. It was done without permits. Pretty much all the extras were either, some sort of like undercover cop. The and it just everything about this has this very like gritty documentary, kind of that new Hollywood style that was so popular then, and it really is also quite the time capsule for what a shithole New York City was at that time.
It's not now? Oh.
Well, I mean, it's definitely getting back there, but not to the level that it was back in the 70s. I mean, Taxi Driver's an even better representation of how god-awful New York City was back in the 70s, but you definitely see parts of it in this movie, too.
What I really like about the French Connection, and this goes way back to, yes, seeing it in TV and reading the book, it's a true story.
Yeah.
All our heroin used to come in through the East Coast from Europe. And this is where I really went down the wrong rabbit hole trying to research the car, because this movie is nothing without the cars. But it is based on true facts, and they were smuggling them through cars. Now, Robert, I have to apologize here. I have lied to you. I have not lied to you. I have misled you with false information. It wasn't a Buick Electra 225. It was a Buick Invicta.
Oh man, I feel.
I know. But what's weird, when I started researching it, all these, and again, this is through the internet, all these different websites are pointing to a Citroen DS, which was a French car.
Right.
Well, that's, and more than one website. I'm going, that's interesting. Where the hell did I get Buick Electra from? And there are a couple of Buick Electras in the background. I go, yeah, but that's not it. And then I start following these websites about Buick Electras and movies. And it's amazing how many movies have had Buick Electras in them. I go, no, this was supposed to be the smuggler's car, and it always threw me off they used the Lincoln. Finally, I actually find photos from the police impound lot with the Buick Invicta with the Euro plates on it. Aha, redemption. It's not an Electra, but it was a Buick. That one was 1968 is when they caught the Buick. In the movie, it's a 70 Continental, but then later they did find a Citroen DS with 1,600 pounds of heroin on it.
Jesus.
The Invicta only had 246 pounds, which is still more than personal use. But what was cool about the Buick Invicta, GM, they must have had some great engineers. There were smuggler bins built right into the Buick Invicta. There's 2 places in the Buick that are easily accessed, easy to stuff 246 pounds to in, and covered up, much like the orange El Camino we had, how it had the smuggler's bin, which I thought, gee, I'm so cool. They put a smuggler's bin right in the floor of the El Camino.
Yeah.
They apparently did it. The same engineers worked on the Buick Invicta. So when they're cutting the Continental up, they're using air chisels to break up. I'm going, you're not putting that car back together and turning it back to the owner with it. This has always bothered me about the movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The way they rip into this thing is like
to the rockers, and you're not going to JB weld it back together. Just because I did it in a car I had doesn't mean you can do it in the movie and make it work. Now it all makes sense. The Buick Invicta had panels you could pull down, pack them full, screw them back up, and it was almost, this was before, drug sniffing dogs and stuff. That's how they were doing it. That's why the Buick Invicta was chosen.
that makes a whole lot of sense, because I that was the problem I had with this movie too, was like they destroyed that Continental.
No, yeah, they utterly gutted it.
Yeah.
And I knew it was based on facts, so that always bothered me. So the real Buick's license, and they even had photos of the car in the impound lot. The real Buick's plates were 18 LU75. And the Lincoln, remember, it drives around with the Euro plates, 18 LU13. Well, much like some California states have, California countries, much like some United States have different license plates to indicate what county they're registered in.
Right.
The 75 on the Buicks showed that the car was registered in Paris. The directors used 18 LU13, representing the Bouches-du-Rhône district of Marseille, and I really butchered that. I'm not Alex Trebek. I can't say those French words like that.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah. But anyhow, it was the district of Marseille, which is where the movie was from and where the real smugglers came from, but they happened to have a Paris car instead of a Marseille car. So I feel quite vindicated by that. Pay no attention to the Citroën DS on the SS France. And I was even wondering if the book, I think the book was probably more factual, talked about the Buick, because as many times as we've seen that, I go, no, I don't know why they didn't use a Buick I still don't know why they didn't, except the Lincoln Mark III looked maybe a little classier. But anyhow, my apologies for telling you it was an electric 225, but at the same time, I solved the riddle of the Citroen versus the Buick. And I still don't know why the directors decided to take an air chisel to the rockers of the Lincoln.
And see, this is why we brought you on, because I guarantee there's no other podcast talking about the French Connection that's going to talk about that at all. I guarantee it.
Nor is anyone else going to care besides maybe me. You know, Andrew fell asleep while I was talking.
I mean, it's an interesting little factoid. I'll grant it that. But yeah, like I wouldn't have necessarily done the research to find this out. So, but I do find it very interesting. So I thank you for that, Bruce.
This is one of those things that I'm watching the movie. I'm going, that doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, I think like the whole scene where they're utterly gutting this car, just like and then they're able to somehow spackle it back together and like everything is fine. It's like, how the hell does that even happen?
He was like duct taping gum to put it back.
Yeah, I know. Essentially, wing it like a wing and a prayer,
Yeah, and he doesn't notice anything wrong with it, I mean, sell a lot, but don't give it back to the owner. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah. So, but now knowing that, it's like, okay, that makes much more sense. And I'd forgotten about those little smuggler, things that they had designed into the car.
Well,
which is why. Well, first of all, why did GM do that in the first place? That's what I want to know.
I know why they did it on the El Camino. It's because they used the same floor pan as they used on the wagon, but because they had a flat bed, they had to cover where the rear passenger footwell would be. So they just built a flat panel and screwed it down.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
But then you look at it and you go, what a cool place to hide stuff. Now, I don't know why it happened on the Buick Invicta.
That would be something I wonder if anyone that was involved in that project was like, why did we design this?
And there's probably a better name for it than a smuggler's bin,
I know, right? It's like
when you look at a car in the dealership, you go, wow, you can fit 2 dead horses in the trunk. Yeah. You're probably going to call the cops before you ever sign the contract.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What does it look like? You could fit, 2-3 bodies in there?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like 911.
I gotta tell you, that was quite a rat. And I was getting really frustrated when all these pointers were pointing to the Citroen. I go, Where did I get Buick from? I go, hey, I've lied to my kid. I've been wrong all this time.
You're a horrible father, Bruce.
And then I started going back to the book, and then I found, like I said, the police pictures, the impound lot, and I'm going, oh man, do I feel better. It just goes to show you how if one person lies on the internet and somebody else uses it for reference, and pretty soon you've got 6 websites that all purport the same lie. So,
Yeah, what's that old Churchill quote? A lie will go around the world 6 times before the truth has a chance to put its pants on.
Yeah.
okay. I hadn't heard that, but I am famous for saying I read something once on the internet that I wrote, and so I know it's true. And people will just look at me and go, wait, that's not how research works.
Yeah. It's
And then quote it as fact.
yeah, it's kind of like the joke that some first like fine artists, they'll it's like I was like someone will say, oh, you're very knowledgeable about it's like you're very knowledgeable about something that you just made up.
Yeah.
Or as Tommy Smothers once said, it's hard to know when to stop talking when you don't know what you're talking about.
There you go.
He was a comic before your time.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, some of the other fun facts about the movie. Gene Hackman must have felt like he was the ugly girl at the prom because nobody wanted him for this movie. They were looking at Peter Boyle, who is, most people probably know him from either Young Frankenstein or Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, he plays the father.
Paul Newman was way out of their budget. Like I said, it was the film. They even went like $300,000 over budget, and that was $1.8 million, which was just nothing. They had no money. They were even actually looking at Jackie Gleason to playing.
What? Jackie Gleason?
Which I'm like, no, I cannot see Jackie Gleason playing Popeye Doyle. There's just no way.
Not after Buford T. Justice.
No.
Oh yeah.
Which he's great in. He actually did a great job as.
Yeah.
But this is a serious movie. Like I can't picture Jackie Gleason in this role. There's no way.
Nowhere.
This would have been before Bandit, Wonder Bit.
This came out in '71, so that was a few years just before the first Smokey and the Bandit. They also had there was talk of like Steve McQueen getting on here, but he didn't want to do another police movie after Bullitt.
Right.
They even thought about doing either like Charles Bronson or Rod Taylor. And the funny thing is like Gene Hackman had already been in like some pretty big movies and is a great movie star, but he was the last one chosen, and so right, we'll go with Gene Hackman.
Oh, yeah, interestingly, what is it? Him and Peter Boyle worked together on Young Frankenstein. Gene Hackman was the blind monk.
That's right.
Gene Hackman was in Young Frankenstein?
Yes, he was.
He played the blind monk.
Okay. I guess I need to go back and watch Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Are there cars in that movie?
What's that?
Are there cars in that movie?
No, it was set in a time where there were no cars.
Oh,
some pretty rad carriages though.
The very distant ancestor to the automobile.
Yes.
Okay.
Where they only had like 1 or 2 horsepower.
Literally.
Yeah. The other thing, this is also a very early film for Roy Scheider, who everyone knows him from Jaws. But no, this was a great cop movie, and also what I liked about it is its minimalist feel. Like the dialogue is very like it's very focused, and the soundtrack is very focused. One thing that I guess I kind of noticed in this past viewing of it that I hadn't really thought of before is Popeye Doyle. Like when he would. When he was looking at the bad guys, there was always like everything else like faded away, like and it just had this very like I don't know if you guys get this, and maybe it's because I don't know if it's like an ear problem, but when you're in a very like quiet room and you're very focused, you get that kind of like everything is like you get like where you're so honed in, everything else fades away, and you get like kind of this like intensity, and to me it felt like Popeye Doyle hated these bad guys, and he just wanted to put them in jail. And that's where like he would whenever he would be focusing in on the bad guy, you would get that sound that would be focused that they would focus in on.
Kind of like in Kill Bill.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. And I guess I had never noticed that before in the movie, or hadn't really thought about it.
I hadn't noticed that either.
But the other stuff is there's a phrase that's used that I'm like I still don't think I've gotten a clear answer on. It's like he always uses that. Like, hey, do you pick your feet in Poughkeepsie?
I remember.
And it's like,
yeah. Did you? I'm sure you Googled it.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. And there's no straight answer.
Yeah, everybody's got a different answer what it means. Yeah, because that was something, and that was another, I read that book, and I don't remember him saying that in the book.
Yeah, I mean.
From what I understand, so the actual cop that Popeye Doyle is portraying, he was actually part of the production team. He was there as a consultant in this movie, and he actually wanted that catchphrase to be something different, but the writers wanted this phrase for some reason, and like I said, I still have no idea what the fuck that means.
Well, I mean, yeah. Rob, I think I told you. Well, at least from what I researched was that phrase is just a way to kind of confuse or confound suspects to to just spurt out some nonsensical phrase to accuse them of something, and then to get them so riled up that they'll eventually just be like, all right, I'll tell you the truth. So it was like an interrogation tactic. Where it's like, because the Popeye, he'd be like the more wound up one, and it's like, oh, just, he's like, we picking your feet in Poughkeepsie, and it's like, what? It's like, we picking your feet in Poughkeepsie Thursday night, and it's like, what? And then, yeah, and then the partner would come in and kind of, play the, good cop, and like, oh, just, calm down, and it's like, hey, you gotta give us something here, man. It's like, just, we don't want to do any harm to you, just give us something.
That makes sense. I can see that because that whole the initial interrogation with the guy that knifes Buddy or Cloudy as it was his nickname. When he slices his arm, it's like do you pick your feet? Do you pick your feet?
Yeah.
And he's kind of almost ready to just beat the shit out of him, and Buddy's holding Popeye back, and he's like, you gotta give us something, pal. It's okay.
See, I thought maybe it was a slang term for selling drugs in Poughkeepsie or New Jersey or something. Picking your feet, hey, you still hanging out in New Jersey? But he said it to so many people, so I just figured there was going to be some tie into New Jersey that never happened.
Maybe that could be too. Like I said, it's something not necessarily specifically spelled out.
Yeah, I looked at a few different places, and I said, well, I'm not going to find a straight answer, and then honestly, I kind of forgot about it.
And and my initial interpretation of it was Popeye kind of threatening him with prison time. It's like I thought that picking your feet, was some sort of like prison slang for like anal rape.
Okay.
It's kind of like the old like grab your ankles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I thought, and I just thought Poughkeepsie was like I thought there was like a jail in or a prison in Poughkeepsie.
You're in
So it was like
getting anally raped.
I mean,
or like at least he was like threatening him like, oh, I'm gonna send you to prison where you're gonna be picking your feet. Which basically means like, oh, you're gonna be grabbing your ankles and you're gonna be raped in prison.
I mean, living in Poughkeepsie, you're already in prison. So.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that was my initial interpretation of it. Before I went and did a little research on like what that phrase picking your feet in Poughkeepsie could possibly mean.
But yeah, no, that was interesting and similar to Bullitt. Like even like the foot chase scenes were really like very tense and like you and the soundtrack that they used along with this felt like it really ramped up the how tense the moment was. And you're like you wanted to like catch that slippery frog one.
Yeah.
And frog is a slang term for Frenchman.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a slur, but yeah.
There's a lot of racial slurs used in this movie, which is
yeah.
So there's a funny, since we're talking in non-politically correct 70s, in the book, there's a scene where Hackman is next to the other cop at the urinals, and it never made it to the movie for some reason. And I don't remember it exactly, but he asked the guy if he's an anteater or a helmet head.
Oh no! Why did they not put that in the movie? That's
great.
Man! God, I hope there's a deleted like a Blu-ray or something.
Man!
I remember it. It's like then you yeah, it is. By golly.
But the
before we weren't all prejudiced and hate everybody just because we had slang terms back then. It was almost, I don't know if you'd call it endearment, but it was just a term when I say, yeah, he's a frog. It just identified him as a Frenchman. It wasn't,
generality.
Yeah.
We've neutered the English language so much that they don't even want to use gender pronouns anymore. Well, it's kind of damn important if it's a man or a woman, is it? Yeah, because it's, Was it from outer space, or was it a man I was talking to? Why does it bother you if I say and?
Well, yeah, that's a very good point there, because like when say you got mugged, how are you to describe the assailant?
Newscasters. Well, he was driving a silver 4-door sedan. Okay, he was 6 feet tall, black, 300 pounds, with his pants around his ankles, and he jumped in a Honda that he carjacked from a little old Karen. But you can't say that on the news because, oh my God, you just offended 30,000 people or 30,000 different groups,
Yeah, allegedly.
It really bothers me. I'm not a racist, and I don't like racist people. At the same time, political correctness and gender neutrality, you're not a binary gender. You are either a boy or a girl. And if your boy wants to dress up, okay, that's fine. And if you're a girl who wants to dress up like a guy, that's fine. You were born that way. If you want me to identify you as a girl, that's fine, but by the way, you were born. We just neutered the English language and so concerned about everyone's feelings that it's tough for old dinosaurs like me to talk without offending someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just as frustrated as you are, we're just as frustrated. You know.
No,
Okay.
yeah. We trust me. Andy and I talk about this quite often.
So you both kind of pushed back, like, okay, Mr. Papp went off on a soapbox.
Yeah, no. It's no. I think it's it's important to hear perspectives from people of your age demographic.
Wow,
Because
I'm offended by that. You just called.
well, because our society has become like so like neutered and like coddled, and everyone has everyone has to have like this protective shell around them that you can't even utter certain mouth sounds anymore without offending somebody.
Yeah.
But what it what is it like? Gene Hackman refers to a black suspect who is actually an undercover officer as as a disparaging racial slur.
Right.
Right. But because he knows, because that undercover police officer knows Popeye Doyle's, personally, he knows that that he's not these bad thing. He's not a racist or anything like that. It's just he himself is playing a part as like this hard nosed policeman, and anyone who thinks that any suspect who thinks that he's not like ready to like put a bullet between his eyes is a danger to him.
Yeah.
And so like there's a certain utility, not to say to racism, but the ability to say certain things and to portray yourself in a certain way.
Well, I think Frank Zappa put it best is like when you get if you allow these words to have power over you, you make them like bigger than they actually are. Like you have to use these words to take the power away from them.
My son is Zappa philosopher.
Mm.
He also said, "I'm not black, but there's a whole lots of times I wish I could say I'm not white."
Yeah, that's true.
But young people of your generation, they might. Why are they calling that guy a frog? I'm not sure if that's even a common term for French people anymore.
No. Yeah, but I think we might be the cutoff.
Yeah, that's what Frog 1 and Frog 2 refers to. It was just a term for French people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, it's especially them, like they're working like kind of undercover. They're using code words and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, well, this is Frog 1. That's he's the main Frenchman that like we're going after.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the chase scene? Because it has a car in it, so
I think we might be losing Bruce a little bit. So we because we haven't talked about cars in like 10 minutes. So
yeah, I'm just getting ready to go home.
So this to me, like, I actually like this chase scene better than Bullitt's. Just because from what I understand is that, like I said, earlier in the episode, is that this movie was, like I said, was on no budget. They had no money, and
not even enough for a shoestring.
Yeah, and they didn't have any consent from the city. They had no permits. And outside of like having a few stunt people and like some undercover cops that were kind of there to help, just to make sure everything's okay. This was very like, it almost felt very rogue in the way that they filmed this, because a lot of the people that were jumping out of the way, those were not extras. Those were people.
Those were actual pedestrians. But like the guerrilla style of filmmaking. Yeah, that's. I think it definitely adds to the lore of this movie.
Right, and a lot of the accidents that happened were actual accidents. They weren't, it wasn't, that was actually not planned. They were mistakes. And I actually kind of wonder if Gene Hackman hurt himself because it looked like he really did.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah. I think they had permits to actually shoot on the train, but not under the train.
That's where the kind of the rogue filming really.
And they talked about the chase scene under the train. And I guess if you actually tuned in to watch about the movie, you'd go, "Why are you guys talking about a chase scene?" Because we didn't really follow through the plot real well. But the only thing that was staged is when Doyle's car narrowly avoids the collision with the woman and baby. All the rest of it, like you said, was just kind of, and I think Pontiac missed a huge opportunity by not making a French Connection Pontiac Le Mans like Mustang did with Bullitt.
Well, yeah.
Orange Le Mans, the French Connection Le Mans, they'd be collector cars now.
Dude, now was that? I'm not super familiar with a lot of especially the 70s Pontiacs, but was the Le Mans like a popular car in the 70s?
Yeah, it was like a rent-a-car. Just it was not a
fleet car.
GPO. It was pretty common vehicle. And although that particular one was not wildly popular as some of the other cars. I'm trying to think what would Pontiac has always been more of a niche manufacturer, just not the numbers that Chevy or Cadillac had. Not GM arranged it as stepping order. You would go from Chevy to Pontiac to Oldsmobile to Buick to Cadillac. And I think that was the hierarchy. And people like me, you just buy a Chevy and you're happy because you never have 32 cents in your pocket. Other people wanted to one up with the Jones. They would, I got a Pontiac. I didn't have to buy a Chevy. And, well, it's basically the same car, only they changed the tags and they charge you more. So the Le Mans wasn't near as popular as some of the Chevys. But it was interesting, because that car was the only chase car they used and never became a famous hot rod or anything. I think they missed a marketing opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, and because they definitely got a lot of marketing out of Smokey and the Bandit with the Firebird.
The Firebird, the Mustang, other cars that have been in movies like that, they capitalize on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy an orange Le Mans and call it the French Connection Hero car and try and sell it for $5 million.
Yeah, hey, you know what? That might work.
It just might work.
Yeah.
I'm starting a GoFundMe page. You two are my first two
Maybe Hackman to sign it.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, he's still alive.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's just retired.
Yeah. See, there we go. And then if he dies, there you go. Even better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like fine art.
Yeah.
There you go.
But no, I would say if I was going to rank the chase scenes, I liked the French Connection chase scene even more than Bullitt's. I mean, it's like choosing your children. Like, I can't choose, but like if I had to choose one, I would choose the French Connection over Bullitt's. And just because, like I said, it's just it felt like this rogue production almost.
Well, yeah, you like the fact that it was shot without, underground, without permits and stuff. It's just a real quick segue. Talk about chase scenes and elevated trains. The Blues Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a movie we have to talk about at some point.
Oh, yeah. We got to review that one for sure.
Yeah, because that's a one-car chase. He's chasing the elevated train,
Yeah.
But it is. It's a great chase scene. I'm surprised you like it better than Bullitt. But there's a GM car in it, so that probably biases your.
That probably plays a part in it too. But I like I said, I really like the whole movie in general. And even there's also a constant theme of with Popeye Doyle, as his character, like where he's kind of like he's a guy that seems to be constantly on edge. He's kind of a mess, and he's very dedicated. But I think like he has this reputation like where things that he's done has gotten other cops killed in the past, which is what Molderig is his name in this movie. Who was the bad guy in the Bullitt, but he's constantly like, hey, your gut instinct, your gut instincts get cops killed, and like they end up getting into a fist fight over it. And lo and behold, like the final scene, which I think is very kind of ironic, is the fact that like Popeye ends up shooting that guy dead in the final scene, and that's kind of like where the movie ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of like at the end they give like this kind of like wrap up thing where it's like in text it describes like after this like Popeye and his partner like left the force and so on and so forth.
They're reassigned and whatever, and it kind of really leaves the movie. You want him to catch the bad guy, but he doesn't. I mean, he kind of does, but he doesn't at the same time, and it leaves you with this very bittersweet end.
Right, because he catches everyone like that's involved like on the U.S. side, but like that elusive Frenchman, that slippery frog, he's the one that got away.
Where French Connection 2 would come in. If they had cars.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at French Connection 1.
Yeah, that was the slippery frog gets away. And you're right, man. Hackman, he was like one little bad bit of news away from just snapping completely. He was right on that ragged edge. And you see him deteriorate through the movie. I mean, he starts out ragged and gets worse. But I think I've always enjoyed the French Connection in the fact that it was based on a true story. And I don't know how much of it is, dramatized for Hollywood, except for changing the damn car. And like I said, it's one of the few books I've read that I also saw the movie. Typically I don't read that type of book. I happen to have a lot of time for reading that when I read that. And then you see the movie and you go, oh, yeah, that's not right. And then you want to go back to the real story and go, okay, so you changed this in the book and you changed it still again. Why do you guys bother changing this? And as weird as it sounds, why did you not use a Buick 60 Buick? Except they were trying to set it in a later time frame. And when was the French Connection set in? I know it came out in.
I think it was supposed to be a modern piece, so it was probably like set in like the early 70s.
Yeah, 70, 71. And if they had used the Citroen DS, most people in the United States would go, "What is that funny looking car?" Unless they had watched that TV detective show where the detective, his name was Jane, drove around in a Citroen DS.
Oh God.
Yeah, and he never caught anybody because his car was never run. But it's one of those things that Hollywood changed that I go, I don't know why you changed this. And because we had to have two of them, where are you going to find two Citroen DSs? Especially on a limited budget. Anyhow, I enjoy the movie because, well, we're not to the synopsis point, but it was based on a true story, and it did have a very rough, raw feel to it.
Yeah, like I said, I think the acting all around was really good. A lot of you like you said, Popeye Doyle, like he really descends into madness as the movie kind of continues on. Just because he he's not satisfied with what he's doing because that one guy, the guy he's pursuing, he's going after the big fish. He doesn't care about all these guppies or what he considers these guppies, and it's like he wants that big guy because I think the movie kind of talks about like very subtly in the dialogue about how him and his partner lead their precinct and arrest, but it's all these like small fish. And a lot of them end up getting off anyways because they either don't have quite the evidence or for whatever reason.
Yeah, or they make like plea deals or.
Yeah. And so like, he really wants the big fish. It's like, yeah, you guys all make fun of me. You all think I'm crazy, but I was right all along. And you kind of want that for him too, but like he just doesn't quite get it. And it leaves you with this really bittersweet feeling at the end of the movie. And but I still really like it. I've seen this movie like 10 times, and I still enjoy it just as much as I did the first time.
The whole stakeout scene down at the docks.
Yeah.
The car cruises by, and the first time you don't really know what's going on. You go, wow, this is it. Wow, it wasn't it. You build up the excitement with, or at least I did. What's going down? Is this it? Is this gonna, is this where the action's gonna butt? No, it's not. It's just some, what were they doing? Stealing hubcaps or something,
Right.
Yeah, they're just like low-level carjackers.
Yeah. And Popeye was so pissed about that, where he's like, just lock them up and throw away the key. Like, get these people out of my way.
Yeah, it almost blew our sting,
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. He gets so focused. You ride with him, his wave of emotions, and deteriorate into his cesspool of desires to get the bad guys.
Yeah.
Much like, and that's probably very true of cops, like they said in Bullitt, that cesspool you live in. And, that's, you spend your life dealing with bad guys. You must descend down into that cesspool on some level.
Right.
And I think like with these two movies that we watched too, like the main characters are very different from one another. Frank Bullitt is much more calm, composed. Like he's very calculated. Where Popeye is so like he's almost like a raw nerve, where it's just like he's just ready to explode, and kind of like you said, he's all by feel, and he's not wrong so much, but like it's just he's so different from like a Frank Bullitt.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, cause what Frank Bullitt does, like where he's like, okay, they killed this suspect that like kind of is what we need, but I want to get these bad guys. Don't list him as being dead. We're gonna hide the body and pretend like this guy's still alive so we can get the bad guys, which is a very calculated move. Popeye, I don't think would have ever conceived of an idea like that. He would have just thrown his hat on the ground and been like, shouted a few expletives into the air. It's
the gypsy. We never saw him.
Yeah.
He would have just gone back to his apartment and had some girl like handcuff his leg to his bed.
Yeah. He said had like some, you just go back to his place and have some, casual sex with a random stranger.
Did I miss something? I didn't see that version, I don't think.
Oh, well, that was one of the scenes where it was just before kind of everything really, like, after they got...
Yeah, he kind of, like, stumbles out of a bar, gets into his car, drives down the street, and then, like, he sees, like, this young woman on a bike, and, I guess, he's, turned on by her in some fashion, and takes her home, and proceeds to have casual since it's in the 70s, I'd assume unprotected sex.
And Cloudy, when he he has to pick the lock to get in because Popeye can't get out of bed. He's stuck in bed.
Yeah, because he got Hank.
Yeah. That's funny. See, I missed the sex scene because there weren't enough cars in it. If they had sex in the car, I would have remembered it.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, he does. Well, he's in his car when he picks up the girl on the bicycle.
Okay.
Well, we have any other scenes or thoughts about the French Connection before we call it an episode?
I don't. I was actually looking at the clock, and man, I do this to Andy all the time. We watched 3 hours worth of movie, and we spent 4.5 hours talking about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't have anything else to add for the
All right. Well, why don't we give our ratings for Bullitt and the French Connection?
All right.
Andy, you want to start us off?
Yes, why not? I'm gonna give both of these movies 4.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna be radically different, Andy.
Okay.
Why 4-star on both?
I just think they're they're made relatively close to each other. But again, I think like you said, this is a very big departure from the Hollywood studio model. And I think that both movies kind of deal with police work in a very similar way, and just kind of telling different perspectives, but different perspectives on police work, but yet still kind of what is it? What am I trying to say here? Dealing with police work, dealing with the dregs of society, but having different perspectives on it. One where you have Popeye Doyle, who is basically tail spinning down into destruction, whereas you have your Bullitt character who despite working in the cesspool, he still has a connection to humanity through his girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I kind of enjoy that kind of I guess philosophical slant on these movies, even though most people probably won't think of it like that, but yeah, that's the reason why. And these were really very enjoyable movies for me. So.
He's cogitating right now about his.
I see.
Maybe I missed something. Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay. The scale is 1 to 5?
1 to 5.
Well, these are 2 of my recurring favorite movies. So I'm probably going to give them both a 5. I think the chase scene is better in Bullitt than in French Connection. But I like them both, and I don't spend a lot of time watching cop movies, but they're 2 cop movies I can watch and enjoy. I don't get tired of the chase scenes. I think the acting is good. So yeah, I'll give them both a 5. And yeah.
Yeah, me, I give Bullitt a 4.5, and I give the French Connection a 5. I just, like I said, I like both these movies tremendously. It's even though these are kind of kind of going away from the studio model, where all these stuff are filmed on location. You see, the Bullitt has more of kind of a warm feel to it. Everything's bright, everything's very almost nice looking. The French Connection, everything is just. I felt cold watching that movie because it's so you feel you're frozen along with like all those cops on the stakeout. Everything's like gross. It's very. I mean, New York really was a shithole back in the 70s. It just.
Are any of your viewers or subscribers from the East Coast? Of course, Bullitt is a nice warm. It's in Southern California, and the French Connection was in New York and New Jersey. Of course, it's a shithole.
Well, yeah, that's true. They're on very coast. But like I said, I like both these movies.
Noticing the obvious.
I like both these movies. I love the acting. Gene Hackman was great. I'm very happy that he was the one that was cast in the role. I don't really think that the other guys, outside of maybe Paul Newman or Steve McQueen, could have pulled it off. But I'm glad they chose Gene Hackman. He was great. Yeah, I really have, nothing really bad to say about any of these movies. They're so good. They're rewatchable. I enjoy them just as much as I did when I watched them the first time. All right. Well, that's the review for today. Dad, where can they find you?
I'm sitting here in the you don't recognize the room since we remodeled, huh?
Yeah, no, it's
social media. Bruce #4 Adams. That's all there is for social media. Instagram. Bruce the #4 and Adams.
All right. If you want to reach Andy and me on social media, you can reach us at @PodcastDOJ on Twitter and Letterboxd, and on Instagram, Circle of Jerks Podcasts. And that's where you can reach us. I had a great time. Thank you for coming on again, Dad, to tell us about. Honestly, I learned a lot about both movies that I didn't know. Especially, now I'm glad that we finally solved the riddle of the car that was actually used in the real story of the French Connection. No, seriously, I found that very fascinating, and I guarantee there's no other podcast talking about that from the French Connection.
I was so. First off, thank you both for having me on. I really enjoy it. I know I talk too much. I try and bring a different light into the movies, and we might be the only 3 people that are interested. But when I kept reading that Citroen DS, I'm just going, how have I had this so wrong for so long? And then I figured maybe it was in the book. And I go, then I went to the true French Connection, and Buick Invicta. Okay, why did I think it was an Electra? Then I found the Electra tie-in, but anyhow, I was really relieved because I figured I'm going to come on here and tell you it was a Citroen, not a Buick, and you're going to question everything I ever told you.
But no, seriously, thank you for coming on, sharing everything that you knew about the French Connection and Bullitt. I learned a lot, as I'm pretty sure Andy feels the same way.
Oh yeah.
Always a pleasure coming on, and hopefully we cut it down to something that will actually, this is where Andy works his magic and gets paid the big bucks. When he edits it down to something interesting and watchable, and I wind up on the cutting room floor or something.
It's all watchable, Bruce. It's all watchable.
And hey, you learn 2 new slang terms: helmet head or anteater.
Yeah.
There you go.
And if you can work that into a conversation and keep those terms alive, more power to you.
Yeah.
Don't let them be lost at this generation.
Amen to that.
All right,
we need to keep colorful English language alive.
That's right.
Amen to that.
Well, that's the episode for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We certainly enjoyed talking about these movies, and we will see you next time.
Deuces.
Thanks, guys.